Aloha and welcome to Connection to the Cosmos with your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. And today I'm really excited to have on Shantana Telise. We'll bring her on in just a moment, but first, just a couple of announcements. If you haven't had the opportunity to grab my free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides, make sure you grab that on my website, mysticmanta.com or drlisajthompson.com. Also, October 2nd to the 6th, here on the Big Island of Hawaii, I'm having my Galactic Retreat Experience. Intensive days where we're going to be enhancing the clairs, really tuning in and connecting with our galactic family and with regular night sky watches. Also, for those of you that are in the healing field or want to become a healer or channeler, I have my Galactic Ascension Channel Certification Program that I'm teaching September 21st and 22nd. And that is online. So anywhere in the world, you can participate. And if you're coming to Hawaii, again, specifically to the Big Island, then come on one of my Big Island UFO tours, where you will see the night sky in a whole new way using the advanced Generation 3 military night vision goggles. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Shantana on. Hello.
Hi.
So good to have you here today.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to be on. This is amazing.
Yeah, so let me share with the audience your bio, and then we'll get started because, I can't wait to talk about all the things that you do because I was recently recorded by you for an upcoming summit, which we'll talk about. We'll make sure that everyone knows about that summit. And then, I'm just excited to have this conversation. So Shantana Telise is the founder of the Divine Channeling Academy and a dedicated spiritual medium and channel. Her mission is to help others unlock their spiritual gifts and align with their soul's purpose. Shantana's journey into the spiritual realm began with a challenging childhood where she was surrounded by spirits that terrified her. This fear resurfaced when a psychic revealed that her daughter possessed the same gifts. Determined to spare her child from similar fears, Shantana embraced her own abilities, embarking on a transformative path of self-discovery and healing. Through her dedication and perseverance, Shantana found peace and developed a deep love for light language, channeling, and healing. Her experiences transformed her perception of the spirit world from one of fear to one of profound connection and support. Today, Shantana's greatest joy is teaching others to harness their gifts without fear, guiding them on their spiritual journeys with compassion and insight. Through her work at the Divine Channeling Academy, she empowers individuals to embrace their spiritual potential and live their most empowered lives. So very much in line with everything that I do. So I love just the synchronicity of us meeting. And so before we get into like all of the stuff that you actually do, I would love for you to share with me and the audience kind of a little more about how you grew up, like spiritual, religious, something else, because I mean, you're talking in your bio about having these spirits and they were terrifying you.
Okay, so basically where I grew up is actually a small Mormon town, and so very religious. And I was not religious, like my family wasn't. And so, but there was a lot of judgment. They always call like, where I grew up an anomaly just because it's so different than anywhere else, it's actually true. They just view things differently. So I was kind of the outcast growing up, and I had really strong psychic abilities as a kid, and my family were kind of spiritual. Like my grandpa did body balancing, touch for health, stuff like that. So we had a familiarity of it, but I didn't really dive into it. My parents, like, they probably shoot me if they knew I said this, but they used to go graveyard hunting. Like, they would go looking for spirits, and it's like they were just always drawn to me. And like, I'm the only one out of my family that really embraced this psychic journey where it's like my siblings just kind of have their own lives and they're like, no. Mm-hmm. But I used to wake up next to dead people. They'd be standing over my bed staring at me, and I'd wake up in the night, like, you know, in that state where you're still sleeping?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I'd wake up and like rip my bed to shreds because there's dead people in my bed. And It was so bad. Like my dad, I feel for the man. Like he used to have to, he told me he used like the power of God and stuff, like the Christ consciousness to get rid of things. And like he always told us, like, you can command things out. Like this is your space. It does not have the right to be here. And because things were so drawn to me, he was always, and like doors would sit there and open and close and like things would move around. Oh, I feel for my family.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I can imagine as a child that that would be terrifying, especially if you maybe don't feel like you're in control of it, right?
Yeah. Well, and I used to, my dad told me, I think two, from the time I was two, I would black out. And this is where I was very different. Like my siblings and stuff could see little bits of spirits here and there. But from the time I was two, my dad said I would black out and I'd go into trances. And I didn't know that was channeling until a few years back when I met my first, like my channeling teacher who
Mm.
explained what it was. I would just black out and be gone. And I remember like scaring my family so often. Like my siblings have horror stories of me blacking out and not being me and just like something coming through.
Yeah, wow. Do you know when you were a child what you were channeling?
Very
Oh,
dark energy. Yeah.
okay. Well, so did this continue then throughout like your teen years and into your 20s and all of this, or did it get shut off a little bit?
I shut it down. So before my daughter was born, a few years before, I was seeing, like, I just call him the bio because he doesn't know my daughter. So I was seeing my daughter's bio, and I was at his house, and I remember going into a trance. But like all I remember was there was a family in the basement, and I was just talking to them, and he wouldn't leave me alone. And this was like around 18, like 18, 19. So they wouldn't leave me, like, they wouldn't, or he wouldn't leave me alone. He was trying to get me to come out of the basement, and I was just like so drawn to it. And he said I hit him, and I don't remember hitting him.
Hmm.
And my cousin was there at the time, and he called my dad, and my dad actually had to come and bring me out of the trance and be like, "Okay, there's nobody here. Like, you gotta." And I felt so bad because my ex was so upset with me. But from before that point, it was just always a thing. Like my dad, even when I moved out, my dad was always like, "Oh, Shantana's here when things start happening." And then once I had my daughter is when I really opened back up. And I never actually fully closed it off because like spirits would still find me. But once I opened it up, that's when all of a sudden it started opening and it progressed, and it progressed through mediumship before the channeling.
Okay. So yeah, so tell us more about that. Like, did you actually, were you doing it for a living or did you have another job or?
I was in healthcare. I lived
Okay.
in an old folks home where there's a lot of death.
Yeah.
Dead people are annoying. Straight up. And I remember getting like, I would do resident care, and then all of a sudden I get these piercing migraines because I wasn't open so much where I knew how to just gently open it up. It was like they were trying to force themselves inside my head to get my attention. And so it actually took me a couple of years to relearn what came so naturally because I blocked it out.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so then with your daughter, like, were you experiencing her having this? I know in your bio, you said the psychic told you that
Mhm.
she was going to have these abilities, but were you seeing it yourself?
Not at that point. When the psychic told me my daughter was one,
Okay.
I don't even think she was one yet. And then over the years, so she's 7 now, and over the years, like, she picks up on people, she reads people, and she doesn't even realize she's doing it, and I have to, like, point it out to her because she's like, "Well, they think this about me." Like, if she's having a tiff with her friends, "They
Hmm.
think this about me, and I can tell this," and they said this, and their friends will be like, "I never said that." But then I can tune into that energy, and I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're picking up, but she doesn't realize it. And she's seen things like we lived in a house, there was something really very scary that was sitting inside her closet because I can tell things are drawn to her, but I clear it out. And because I know what I'm doing now, I just clear it out, keep the house cleared, and I always have a shield of protection around. So she doesn't get to see things as much as what she does, but she's very in tune.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So then tell me more about like how you then got into like the channeling and the light language and all of that.
That was all spirits doing. like I said, mentioned before, I had a teacher that taught me how to channel. Like, actually, that's when I learned what it was. I
Mhm.
was just scrolling on Facebook one day, and this was a bit into my Reiki journey. So, like, I started with Reiki because my aunts were, that's how I met the psychic. My
Okay.
aunts were like, oh, go get a Reiki healing. And I was like, all right, whatever, sure. And so I went and got one. And then that kind of started into that journey for a couple years. And I got all my Reiki levels. And then I think I'm around my level 2. I was just on Facebook one day and Spirit guided me to this live. I don't even know how it came up. Like, but they were doing a 3-day masterclass basically. And I guess the thing was, is if you comment and like on it, then you get entered in to win the freebie. So basically it was just like a scholarship to her academy thing that she had. And so I was like, okay, but I didn't know that when I first commented, because when I felt her, I was like, you're Pleiadian. Like there was something in me that just knew there was something where I was like, I know you. Like there's somehow, some way, she's in Australia, I'm in Canada, but somehow, some way, I was like, I know you. Like I've met you. And I commented that and just commented the 3 days because now then I was invested. And then afterwards I got this email and it was like, congratulations, you win. And I was like, okay, this is a scam straight up. And no, it wasn't. So then that was kind of how it started.
Well, okay, so I mean, at this point when you were like, oh, she's Pleiadian, did you like, were you into different ET races? Like what, how did that come about of you just knowing?
I don't know. I actually don't have an answer. It's like my guides just like there was somewhere it was just like this connection, but I just knew, and I could hear like what they would say to me, right? And I think at that point I had a bit of an understanding of like just different like angels and different beings and stuff like that, but I wasn't into like ETs and all that.
Okay. Well, so then in the channeling class, were you channeling different types of entities, or was it the Pleiadians that you mentioned before we even got on to the show?
Um, so there was the way she had it set up was like you learn to channel. It was once I was actually inside her academy, that's when I started realizing, hey, like this makes sense. And I was very drawn to I was called them star nations, but like I was always drawn to them. And that was where I learned. She was like, okay, you're gonna channel with star nations, you're gonna channel with angels, you're gonna channel with archangels. Like it was just like her layout was just channeling with different beings, like your higher self. And that was kind of where and then I really dove into it. But she only had like a slight layout. It was once I found what I was drawn to. Oh, it took over the years that I've really learned it, like dove into it. Because what am I? I'm Syrian.
Okay. So Syrians are one of my groups as well.
Oh.
I mean, I have quite a few, but yes, I highly resonate with the Syrians. And so, how did you discover that Syrians were your people?
I had an Akashic Records reader tell me, but it was like, I think I knew because I know at that point I had already done like the searching, and you can test yourself and you can channel with these beings and find out where you're from.
Hmm.
And so, and I'd taken a couple programs as well with the same teacher. And she gave me a soul reading. And one of the things that she said was, I'm Syrian. So it was like everything confirmed it. But they came to me and they were like, this is where you're from. Like my soul, this is where I don't ever quite understand. But it says, my soul's from Venus, but I'm Syrian. But I knew I was Syrian. So,
Okay. Okay, so you channel the Syrians,
mhm,
and then you channel Pleiadians.
yes.
Who
And
else?
Arcturians.
And Arcturians. Okay.
Andromedans, Lyrans. I don't know how to say that. It depends on who I'm working with too, like who their soul families are.
Okay. So all of those groups that you mentioned are groups that I work with as well. And one of the things that for me that made it a lot easier to allow them to come through was realizing that they're just simply aspects of me. That's
Hmm.
and so that's how I was able to connect with all of them much easier, and it not be a scary thing at all, and just trust.
Were you ever afraid?
Well, no, not afraid. No, I would say. it was more of a hesitancy of like, you know, getting over letting go of the control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
So it took some practice, and the Arcturians were the first ones that came through, and they're my strongest in terms of for channeling. But it's the
Nice.
Arcturians, the Syrians, and the Mantis primarily that come through the healing side of things.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Because the Victorians, aren't they like ninth dimensional? So they
Well,
have
they
high.
reside in different dimensions, but yeah, they're very high dimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That says about you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So when you're channeling these different groups, then are you doing readings for people? Is that how it depends on who's going to come through? Or do you know you're like, okay, no, I need to pull through the Andromedans right now?
No, how it works is like I just call in their team, like angels, guides, everybody on their team I will go into. And then when they step forward, a lot of times how it happens is depends on the type of channeling I'm going to do. Like if I'm doing a more of like an indirect channel where we're kind of like sitting and having coffee, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking and we're doing a healing on them, because no matter what, if I'm doing a healing session on somebody, I will call in their team and go through their team and then into them. I don't go directly into them because
Okay.
that's generally when it's more of a mess. And then I always found like I always picked up more energy and like held on to it worse. Like I would clear it through myself, and I don't love that. So at least when I'm going into their team, then we're just getting in and they're doing the work. So I call them in, and if we're doing that kind, then they will step forward. Okay, here's who needs to come in. I just allow that space for them to tell me who that person needs. And sometimes it'll be one being. Sometimes I've had councils. Like it all depends. And then if I'm doing a trance channel, generally it's one being that will come through and they will speak through me, or we will usually speaking through me. And then there's light language where they'll be like, okay, here's where you're going to channel this light language from. If it's this collective or that collective, we're going to do it this way, and you're going to just bring through whatever frequencies come through.
Okay. So with the light language, did that also come through the channeling class, or was that separate?
Yes, that was in the channeling class. I never heard of it beforehand.
Okay. Okay. And is it something that you vocalize? Because I know, like for me, it comes through my hands, and
Okay.
it's only randomly will it come through vocally. But it's just something I'm still, working on.
See, for me, it's both. Like my hands sit there and move, and I speak it, and it's whoever I tune into is what comes out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what kind of clients come to you? Like, what do they come to you for?
I've had a lot of looking for healing guidance, stuff like that. But now I'm more moving. I prefer teaching. I love to teach. If I could do one thing, it would be to teach. And that's why I'm teaching the channel, is because that is my number one soul contract, like soul purpose. I'm here to teach and then activate. So even if I'm doing a healing session, it automatically comes with, we just do like activations where they're like, okay, we need to do these kind of activations. And so we do them. So those are my two main. So it's been a journey of finding me and finding what I want, what I feel comfortable with, and what I love to do. Because for a long time it was like, oh, I'm going to try doing card readings. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. And now I'm just like, no, I prefer to teach. And then if people want to work with me like one-on-one, it is in what is it called? In a program where it's like a layout of videos, and you can watch these activations and healing techniques and different teachings. And then you get sessions with me one-on-one where we're going to dive into, okay, what it is you need, stuff like that.
Okay, very cool. Well, so for people, who might be interested in learning, channeling, I know some people are still probably hesitant of like, okay, what is this, and how do I know what's coming through me, and all of that, right? Like for me, I've had to learn how to be in a really clear, neutral place, but then raise my vibration. Because there was one night where I was, it wasn't that I wasn't necessarily in a high vibration, but I had had some wine,
Mhm.
and something a little lower vibration was speaking through me, and it freaked my daughter out. And she's like, "Don't ever do that again." So I have to, yeah. So now it's a very conscious thing of what I'm going
Mhm.
to allow to come through. So,
I feel you on that. I just don't drink anymore. It's not worth it.
yeah. So I guess for people who are curious about channeling, and they might be hesitant of like, okay, what's going to come through? What would you speak to that?
Honestly, the way I teach it is it's all in the heart. So if you're raising your vibration up, like even when I first learned, it was what is it that makes you feel really good? For me, it's my daughter. Where is it in your life that you can tap into that really strong love energy? If you're not familiar with that inside of yourself, then you need an external source. So for me, when I started, it was like I would always think about the birth of my daughter,
Mm,
and it was just like the happiest moment of my life. So like I start thinking about that, and I could just, even now if I think about it, my vibration starts to rise. Like I can feel it in my heart, and then I focus on expanding my heart out. And so you can see it as like a gold or a green energy or a pink energy, and you just focus on expanding that, because then even if you are in that lower state, you're bringing yourself back up so that it's not so scary. Because when you bring you up, then it's very rare that you will have those low energies come through and try, especially if you're meant to be a trance channeler, then
mhm.
they're not going to come in and just like take over. Like, plus boundaries, you gotta have boundaries with these guys. Like
Yeah.
I follow a very I'm pretty, like, I don't know how to put it, open with even the way in my academy, like the way we created it. I created it with ISIS actually. The way we created it was so that they could create like their own intro sayings, their own steps. Like they follow my steps, but they have to create, which allow the beings to choose you. Who are you meant to be working with? These are the beings you're going to call in now. Once they tell you who they are, that this is who's going to protect your space. So it's very structured so that you don't have those scary moments, because then I know, I would say, like, I know the dark, I know the light, and the
Mhm.
dark's not that scary once you realize how amazing you are. You
Yeah.
can bring yourself up.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So then do you teach mediumship in your academy as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even in there, I'm like, okay, like understand that you might do this, because I broke it into months. So it's like you're taking a month of learning the foundation, the basics, month of learning the different guides, getting familiar with them, and then like we go into the channeling. And so it's split into 9 months.
Okay.
But when we go into mediumship, I'm like, look, you might do this, and you might say to me, Shantana, I never want to do mediumship again. I hated it. But at least you have the tools so that if you're doing a healing session and someone's loved one comes through and they're like, look, I really need you to get this message to them, then at least you can relay that message.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Well, let's talk about the summit that you have put together. So, we just met a few days ago because you had invited me to be on the summit that's going to, so this is coming out June 11th, but then, so the summit starts on the 14th, June 14th, correct?
Yes.
So people have time to sign up for it. It's a free summit. So tell us more about the summit, the title of it, and the kind of speakers that you've gathered.
So the summit is Goddess Evolution, and our theme is revealing the secrets on how to channel the divine to heal your past lives and timelines. And again, like you said, it is available on the 14th. You can sign up before then. And we have, oh my goodness, over 30 speakers now talking about how they channel the divine, and even doing like Akashic records a little bit. I think we've gone into mediumship, like just different aspects of channeling and how it differs for so many. Like I've had some where it's they channel more of like their children, and others where it's like channeling the divine, like channeling ETs, like, so it's been a lot of fun getting to interview so many people, and it'll be available on the 14th.
Excellent. And then there's a live couple of days as well. You want to tell them about
Yeah.
that?
So it goes from the 14th to I think the 21st, and then the 21st and 22nd are 2 live days where you can actually come onto the Zoom call with us and watch and ask questions, and there's free gifts from each speaker. So if you would like to come and join, you get to claim your free gift.
Yeah.
And then you can ask all your questions to them and get their different takes on what channeling is like in their experiences.
Beautiful. Well, and I appreciate again being a part of that. And so right now we had talked about like, is there anyone or anything that might want to come through while we're here together?
Yeah, I've actually had the Emerald Pleiadian Council kind of bugging me today. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's perfect. Probably bugging me for this. Okay, let me just tune in and we will see what they. Drink some water. Okay, we're gonna do a light language. Again, they're like money-based abundance, getting into that frequency. They want to do a restriction healing. So removing any restriction, like I'm seeing like ties everywhere, kind of just like stopping you from fully stepping up, shining, and being in that abundant energy. So we're just gonna do a light language healing for that. Rotate andaria kiar shukondi asa ale o rotira ayandere kuresi shukurutira ur alele kotiandara ale rotira ale randire esiara harera kurasira huria kaira hara ashungandere kiara Halerosa ashukura ara ashorendere kiara alele kotorrotate Aiore alle docate atira asingure atira ashokote andare allenadare atire hurra richiara atira adara airo chiara asingure airo sira le andare cura sira ashira lana candere curro tira hai andare cura sira cu Haira, correra, allerantiera, chiasira, asira, allere curreti. Aira, chi andrà totero, currata, ter, allerandere. Airere, chi andandore. Dorera ulela landorere chiatatara aerosera ashangore allelandere aiaruiara le cura allandere chiasire curesia Gire correre ora, aerosi cote anda, alladandere cure scille le si antorera, hara aure e yanka uri si chiara tutte ara shukura. Corriera corrondara, cadandara, cadera currota. Horera. Airo corre asir o roto. Gira volelo leti, rokutandare, rokote, arakata. Hanandere, rashore, arakure, asikora.
I fully received that, and I felt it through my body.
Oh, I love their energy because it's always like it's so much more gentle. Like they're not so abrasive like some of them are. It's just like, okay, we can gently do this.
Well, no, that was beautiful, and I certainly like felt the energy of that, and I mean, and that's one of the things that I do love about light language is that you it's not like you're interpreting the words, but it's just receiving right the energy, the frequency of it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite ways to channel for that exact reason. It's just like I don't have to think, I can just do.
Yeah. Well, so okay, so that's an interesting thing that you just said about different groups have different feelings as you're channeling them. So tell me more about that. What you experienced with the different groups.
Well, Pleiadians, like I said, they're very gentle, very like their energy is just like, okay, we're gonna help you get through it in a lot more, I was find like ease. Like it's just kind of flow through it. It's easy. Whereas like I think Commander Ashtar, I think he is with the Galactic Federation.
Hmm.
And when I channel him, it's overpowering. Like it's like all of a sudden I feel like I'm being hit so hard with this energy. And he's not like gentle by any means. It's like, no, you're gonna do this and you need to do it now. Like I've been like the one time I was standing outside and all of a sudden he's like trying to pull me in. I can feel myself slipping into a trance and I'm like, no, like I'm not doing this right now. Wait. And I'm losing like control of my body because he's like, no, you need to listen. And so his energy is so strong, whereas others are not as. Whereas like I find Syrians are also when they're very strong to channel, not as abrasive like that, but it's like just very strong energy to hold. And so
Okay.
sometimes the channels don't last as long. We're like Pleiadians, I could probably channel with them for a good hour or two. Like they're just so gentle about it.
Hmm.
Whereas others, it's like, okay, I'm done. I can no longer hold this. I need to just crash and eat some chocolate.
Yeah, well, and that's a very interesting thing because when we're running this energy through our bodies, it can take practice to get used to that energy. And like for me, yeah, I would get very tired afterwards, and I'd have to drink electrolytes and make sure, I was taking care of myself. Now, especially with the Arcturians, now that energy is more familiar to my body,
Yeah.
so it's a lot easier.
Oh yeah. See, I created last year. It took me a year to create it, but I created a program with them. It was with the Arcturian Council and the Andromedan Council. They both came to me and they were like, "Hey, we have this program you need to do." And that's one thing I'm really bad for is like I'll channel a lot for my business because I love creating programs. It's my favorite. If I could do that for people, I would be like, "Hey, let's do it." I love it. And so it's like I get to work with all these beings and they come through and there was a couple, I can't remember their names. I think one was Elizabeth, she said her name was. And I think from the Andromedan Council, I think it was Drog, if I remember correctly. But they introduce themselves and then they're like, hey, we have this program. And then they take you through this upgrade period where you then have to like they work on you for it could be like a month, it could be a few weeks, like it changes, but it's one of my favorite processes. But I forget to channel for myself all the time.
Okay. Well, so, and that's an interesting thing, because I think I forget to channel for myself too. But we all have the answers within us. We all have this ability, and so I love that you help teach people how to do this. Is there, like, in terms of the mediumship? I know that you don't really do mediumship, really, right, as a service, but what, for people that have passed loved ones, and I have a couple people that passed away within the last year, my husband and my mother, but and my kitty. So
We've really gone through it.
and so I'm what are some themes that people from the other side want their loved ones to know? Are there typical themes that come through, or is it different?
Honestly, it depends on the person too. Like, my uncle passed this last year, or I guess at the end of 2023, and he was coming through for his, like, my cousin, and he was like, "Hey, like, you know, wanting to talk to him," and so I would relay the message where it was very fresh, and so it was just about that emotional support, letting him know, like, "Hey, it's okay," you know, kind of thing. Whereas my grandfather and my grandmother, like, they come through, and I've had people that have been passed for a really long time, and they're generally more guides. So, like, if they choose to stick around, because if you really think about it, for us, a lifetime feels so long depending on how long you live.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for them, it's literally just like a blip in time. That's it. Like, when they, so they'll stick around and support you through it. And I've had people come through in sessions and just be like, "Hey, like, I'm going to help you with this for this person." Like, their loved one will come through, like, and just help along and help in the heart or something like that, where it's a little more open. It's not so much the emotional support. It's more of, "Hey, there's a common thing in our line. This needs to be worked on. Let me help you remove it." So it's more like going into the ancestral line. And then other times they're just there for support and to just hang out and be a part of your team, basically, to help you go through life.
Okay. Yeah. So what else would you like to share about what you do?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, you do so many amazing things. So I just, yeah.
I honestly, it's just a lot of what I do is just playing around and having fun, and I love channeling because you just get to explore. Like I said before, when I first started, I knew nothing about ETs, and then I came to find out, oh, I am one, and that's why I don't fit in, because it's like, oh, my soul's so old because I've traveled and been all over. Like, I was in Atlantis and Lemuria, and like, I've been around for a while.
Yeah.
And so when you just get to have fun and explore, and like, even in my academy, the one thing we talk about is going into the Akashic records. So, like, there is like an Akashic records reader, but when you can just channel the Akashic records, it's just easier. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer it because then you're just diving in and having fun. So I kind of just, I don't know, once you've realized how fun it is, you just get to explore and play and incorporate it into your day-to-day life. Because one thing people ask me all the time is like, well, do you just sit and channel, or how does that play out? And I'm like, my entire life is channeling, because even my daughter, I'm like, you get away with nothing because the voices in my head tell me. So it's just fun to explore. And what are your gifts? How does it come through for you? And I think that's been a lot of fun too, is exploring what your gifts are and realizing you don't just have one, like, you have many.
Mm-hmm. Well, so with your daughter, since she's 7, are you actively working with her so that she does stay open to her gifts?
Well, if you look around my house, like, I know you can't, but like, if you look around, like, I have singing bowls, I got cards everywhere. Like, it's very spiritual. We got crystals. So she's very open.
Mm-hmm.
And even, like, because I can read and I point out to her when she's reading people, or when she's doing something, or when she's picking up on something, like, that kid will come home from school and I'm like, "Clear yourself." So she learns, like, one thing I told her, and I've told her lots, like, she knows this, but it's what your outside is a representation of what you feel inside. So if your house is a complete disaster,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're at inside.
Yeah.
And I noticed the last few days, like, she helped me clean the whole house this weekend, and we mowed the lawn. And I went to go check her room this morning, and her bed is made. She took all her dirty laundry out. She's just like, my energy's good.
I love that.
And I'm like, when
Yeah.
did you start actually, like, absorbing what I say?
Yeah. Well, that is beautiful. So, well, how do people find you if they want to do your academy or work with you?
Well, right now we're doing the summit, and I've been kind of talking to a lot of people, so that'll be out there. Facebook, I have a Facebook group. It's called Prosperity. And you can find me on Facebook, just Shantana Telise. And then my website is shantanatelisehealing.com. So if you go check that out, my academy is on there. And I think we're even doing some early promo stuff because it doesn't actually start until August 31st.
Okay.
So
Beautiful.
if anybody signs up early, you get some gifts.
Okay, excellent. Well, oh my goodness, I don't know if you can hear that. Normally I put him in the garage, but I thought he was going to behave today. So, Jax, Pomeranian.
Feel the energy.
Yeah. So anyway, I thank you so much for being on here with me today and for, again, having me on the summit. Make sure everyone that you sign up for the summit and watch all of those amazing speakers and get the free gifts and all of that. And, I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Me too. I love your alien.
Thank you. And for those of you watching and listening, thank you so much. And I'll see you next time on Connection to the Cosmos. Aloha.